to look at buttonholes for this CS 6000i from Brother. It makes amazing buttonholes. It has 7 different buttonhole options, and the machine is so reasonably priced that it's worth the purchase just to make buttonholes. So it's really easy, super simple. I took a scrap and I've added some interfacing to it, because when you're practicing buttonholes or any kind of stitches, you want to make sure that they are similar to what you would be doing in real life. And since this is buttonholes, they would be on a placket or a facing of some kind, and we would have interfacing in it. So first thing you want to do is change the presser foot and change the foot to the buttonhole foot. And there's a little button in the back here. You just push on it and the foot pops off. So the zigzag foot comes off. This is your buttonhole foot. This piece here attaches to the shank, and this is where your button goes. So this piece over here moves up and down, and it encases your button. So we're going to start with this little small button, and I'm going to put it inside the button casing, and that will tell the machine how big to make the button. I'm going to slide it underneath my foot. You just kind of have to wiggle it around until it's in the right, until it's in the right place. And there we are. Fabulous. Now, I'm going to set my machine. I'm going to look at this buttonhole, and I'm going to do we're going to start with 29, which is the first buttonhole in the machine. So I'm going to turn the dial to 29, and the machine does everything else. It sets everything up for me. The only other thing I need to do is there's this little tab back here, and I need to pull this down. That spring action helps the button move. Now the button holder goes backwards, so it starts from the top. But there are little hash marks here on the foot, and I'm going to just line those up. Put my presser foot down, insert my needle, and press the pedal. The machine stops all on its own when the button is finished. And you notice I didn't tug on that. I just kind of moved it around a little bit, just held onto it so it didn't slide too far out of place. I'm just going to snip all my little threads. So this button is a rounded buttonhole. You can see how it's rounded at the bottom. Just has a nice little style. And when you're working with buttonholes, you need to cut them open. That is a scary part of buttonholes, and a trick to cutting them open is to put a pin at each end where the button is sunk into the cross piece. So you put a pin at each end, and then I'm going to fold it in half and use my snips. I like my duck-billed snips because then I can use them backwards, and I can take this really sharp point and just slide it in there. And if I go too far, the pin will keep me from cutting through the end of the button, which would be tragic if you were finishing up a garment, because buttonholes are typically the last things you do. So it helps to keep me from snipping through there. Please don't use your seam ripper. People used to use their seam ripper. It was terrible. There were all kinds of seam ripper accidents with buttonholes. Now I want to take this button out to see if it fits. I'm just going to show you, because that would be something that you would test when you do your test button, right? And you just slide, well, we'll slide it through the back. Slide that buttonhole through there. Look at how beautiful that is. That is one beautiful buttonhole. All right, let's move on to some of the other options. All right, we're going to try, that was the first buttonhole. Now we're going to move on to the second buttonhole, which is more of a classic, just straight at both ends. And I'm taking a larger button, and I'm going to put that in the back of the buttonhole foot and pinch it tight so my buttonhole foot knows how big to make the buttonhole. So I'm going to insert my fabric, And before I put my presser foot down, I want to change the stitch length on this. This is the stitch number on this is 30. So I'm going to change the machine to 30. Put the presser foot down, sink my needle, go. All right, now this one is a little larger because we have a larger button, but it's still just as nice as the first one. I will show you. Oops. Look at how beautiful that is, right? It's a little bit bigger than this one because we went for a larger button. So let's move along. We'll keep that button size in there for a little while. Now we're going to do the third one on their list of buttonholes, which has open zigzag side. I'm going to change it. It's number 31 on this machine. Insert my needle. A stretch stitch buttonhole. So this third one has this really interesting zigzag, which would be really fun as a decorative stitch, but also functional, I believe, for a zigzag buttonhole. If you're going to put a buttonhole in something that has stretch, you need the buttonhole to move a little bit. So I think this one will move up and down. That's why it has all those zigzags in it. All right, that's 3. Buttonhole number 4 is also another stretch style buttonhole. Let's see how that one looks. And you can see I'm not pulling the fabric. I'm kind of holding it so it doesn't go crooked in the beginning, but essentially that's all I'm doing to the fabric, is keeping it in place, lightly holding it. So here is the 4th one, and again that one has a very zigzagged kind of appearance to it, which would make it great for a straight stitch. Now the last 3 are keyhole buttonholes, and I'm going to use a larger button because typically you use a keyhole buttonhole on a coat. So you would use, a button. This is a pretty good size button. So I'm going to put that in the back and pinch it in place so my machine knows what size to make the buttonhole. Insert my fabric, change my number. Super easy, right? To go from one to the other, you just push a button. So you can see this would be perfect on a coat. That's how it would go, with the keyhole on the outside edge, right, for a button, because on a coat the buttons slide back and forth, and it's quite a bit larger than the one above it because I stuck a larger button in there. So it adjusts the size and it adjusts the pattern like that. It doesn't take any time. It's crazy, right? So we're gonna go up one more and do a different keyhole button. This one has a pointed edge love that it sets the stitch at the end and it tells you when it's all done. There's no guesswork involved. You don't have to toggle your zigzag and your stitch length back and forth like you did with the old machines. And then sometimes you wouldn't get the right dimensions, they wouldn't be balanced. It was so much work. So here's our third keyhole, the second key. So here's our second keyhole, right? So it looks like it's a little different than the one in front of it, but not much. You can see that the end, so this end is squared off, and this end here is rounded. So it's just really a little bit of a style difference. And the third one, the end is different. That's essentially what the difference is in the third keyhole button, which would be our last and seventh button. And that's it. We did 7 buttons. I don't know, what did that take, 10 minutes? Certainly didn't take very long. And they're all beautiful and functional. So this last one, the bottom edge goes this way as opposed to this way. And that's what makes that one different from the others. I got a little close to the third one. So look at that. 7 buttonholes, no time flat. Beautiful. The best way to make buttonholes, you're making shirts and you have to put, I don't know, 7 buttonholes down the front and then at least 2 in the cuffs. If they're French cuffs, they're 4. Some longer cuffs require a couple more. That's a lot of buttonholes, and shirt dresses are everywhere. They're on the runway. We're making them, blouses and shirts, and buttonholes need to go fast. They need to be easy and comfortable and well balanced. They're on the front of your garment. You need them to look good. It's important. So Brother CX 6000i is the best buttonhole machine in its price range, and its price range is pretty good. You get a lot of value for the money. Check it out. Bye.